Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek, Rebel with a Cause, Lamaster.
This is Green Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and Derek becomes James Dean movies.
I have a cause. He had none.
Oh, that's true. He was without a cause.
He was.
You're right. What's your cause to be a rebel?
My cause to be a rebel is to transition all plastic straws to cactus straws.
Cactus straws?
I know. I'd never heard of this until we went to eat at this local place. I think it actually was a franchise. Either way, they had these like weird. So paper straws suck. I think everybody can agree with that, right?
Yeah.
They're not the best. Yeah.
Not the best.
Dude, these things are kind of like it's like a resin that is in the form of a straw. So like it doesn't feel super smooth like a plastic straw, but it's got the same like integrity.
Durability?
Yeah, durability. And it's biodegradable. I was like probably the only person in the history that's been like, hey, these straws, what about them? And luckily she knew about them. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Nice.
Well, that's cool. Now I'm interested.
Yeah. I'm
that
too.
guy. I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to buy some.
You should.
I'm going to hand it out on the street to little kids. Here's your straw.
Don't do
Maybe
that.
I won't do that. I won't
do
that. But
let's stop it there. I mean,
but if you come to my house and you ask for a straw,
you will have cactus straw. That's good. Cacti straw. I like it.
You want two of them, I guess.
Yeah, to get cacti straw. I do. I usually drink out of both corners of my mouth.
I only shove them up my nose and go like this.
Yeah, that's a thing to do too. That's a thing to do. You know what? Al Pacino's character in Scarface did a lot of putting straws up his nose as well.
You know what? You roll with it.
Tony Montana.
Also, real quick, in case Clark ever watches any of these because he's too young to watch them now, I want to wish him a happy birthday. Today is actually his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
And this will
He's 5.
air a week after his birthday.
That is true.
So,
hey,
happy belated birthday.
Because this is so cute. We actually celebrated yesterday and we had a little party for him, right? And so last night I was tucking him into bed. I was like, all right, Clarky, tomorrow's your actual birthday and you're going to get a couple more presents. And he was like, tomorrow's my birthday again? Am I going to be 6? Like, you're so cute because he turned 5. Kids.
Kids.
Yeah.
And their inability to count time.
Yeah.
They're like dogs. They don't have any concept of it.
Yeah, it is like a weird concept. I remember being confused about birthdays when I was a kid. I'm like, okay, so we just pick a day or like what?
Imagine being born on like leap year.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, then you're just like, I guess I turn a different age once every 4 years. I don't know.
That's when you just like, you know what? I'm going to celebrate this mofo on the 28th.
Yep, that's what you do. Or you pick either the 28th or the 1st.
Yeah.
Yep. That'll be your birthday. God, that one person that's like their license, they have their driver's license and it says February 29th.
Someone.
All right, guys. We have a good show today because we're going to do a movie that we've thought we've done multiple times, but we're going to finally discuss it for the audience. And that is, of course, Fright Night. But before we get into that, we're going to hit into the horror news. And guys, I have a bunch. Let's start with this. This is kind of big news if it comes true. But I think you guys would love this. So Evil Dead Rise is going to be out next month. Around the same time as Connor is going to be born, actually. But Evil Dead Rise is on its way out. And it is getting great reviews. People are raving about it, saying how fun it is and how scary it is. And it's just all the things you want in an Evil Dead movie. So Sam Raimi, Rob Tapert, and Bruce Campbell have been making the rounds, interview rounds. And Sam Raimi said he still wants to do Evil Dead 4 with Bruce Campbell. And he said, he was like, "You're muted, by the way, Derek. Get it out of the way early."
What did Bruce say about that? I'm curious.
So Bruce is like, they're saying, "Oh, that's what I wanted to do," but Bruce is now saying he's retired from Ash. And Bruce said, "No, you guys aren't putting this on me." He's like, "I'll tell you what, I'm making this declaration right now. If Sam Raimi directs another Evil Dead movie, I will return as Bruce or as Ash." He's like, "I don't want to be Ash for somebody else. I don't want to be in somebody else's movie. They don't get Ash as well. They don't know how to do it. Sam's always been beating me up, so I'm used to it. So I'm going to say it right now. Rob and Sam, if you guys want to do Evil Dead 4 and you actually get the funding and you do it, I will star as Ash." So the court, the ball's in their court at this point.
Well, I just want to go on record to say I've got at least 3 Lincolns that I'm willing to donate.
Yeah, at least 3. I got a couple of Lincoln Logs I'm ready to donate. Remember Lincoln Logs?
I do, but
I don't know how much they're worth, but I just have a couple of them laying around.
I couldn't tell if that was a
which is interesting. That's
to-
also what Abraham Lincoln called his shit. Lincoln Logs.
That's more or less where I was going. I was like, man, I don't know if he's referring to feces or he's actually referring to the Lincoln
logs. Yeah.
Anyway.
I have both just sitting around. What are your guys' thoughts?
That's good news. Exciting news.
Let's do it, right?
I've got 2 thumbs, and if my feet had thumbs, I'd have 4 thumbs up.
I'm with you. All right. We just talked about this movie a little bit the other day. Do you remember we talked about It Follows?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the creator of It Follows, David Robert Mitchell, is making a dinosaur movie set in the 80s for Bad Robot, starring Anne Hathaway.
Starring Anne Hathaway?
Yes. So again, he is making a dinosaur movie set in the 1980s, starring Anne Hathaway. Thoughts?
It has to be semi-legit. At first, I was like, Anne Heche. I was like, man, she passed away. So, Anne Hathaway, what?
It's being described as a thrill ride for Warner Brothers.
I mean, I remember when, what's his face? The Fast and the Furious actor.
Paul Walker?
Paul Walker did a dinosaur movie with Denise Richards, I think in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was called Timeline, right? Is that what it is?
No.
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex.
You're talking about Tammy and the T-Rex. Okay, yeah. That movie. That's a special movie. Yeah.
It is a special movie. Thank you, Lydia. I'm glad you knew where I was going with that.
I was thinking about that. What was that? The Timeline movie.
Timeline.
Where we went back in time. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of in my head for some reason.
What
do you guys think of this? I mean, sure.
I have no idea what to think about it till we see the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like sounds too weird to kind of wrap your head around.
Apparently he wrote the script. Yeah, apparently he wrote the script. So that's a thing that's happening.
Well, all I can say is that I love It Follows. I love Anne Hathaway. I love dinosaurs, and I love the 80s.
Yeah, so they're all the things that I like. Yeah, there's nothing I don't really like about it, to be perfectly fair. Guys, we've been talking about this for a while, but we now have a star for the Twisters movie, the sequel to the 1996 movie. Daisy Edgar Jones is going to star in this movie. It doesn't look like we don't have a plot yet, but they're hoping to bring back Helen Hunt. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Daisy Edgar Jones? Is that someone we would recognize from?
She is in Hulu's Fresh, a TV show called Fresh. I've not seen that show, so I don't really know her.
I feel like they've got to have Helen Hunt come back, otherwise
she has to, right?
What's the point?
Lee Lee Isaac Chung is on board to direct. So, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, they never made a sequel to Twister, which was perfect. I mean, which is kind of a miracle because the movie was a massive hit when it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, are they going to wait this long just to mess it up, or are they going to give us something that we want to see? You know?
You know,
I don't know. Time will tell.
if we're sticking to reality, mixing in something like global warming and how it's affecting weather patterns, because we're having more and more intense storms and they're stronger, would probably
That's
be
true.
a good storyline to go down.
That's true. As long as they don't go full blown geostorm, then we'll be all right.
Dude, I would totally be like Twister, the typhoon story.
Those are two different things.
Well, I know, but that's a good transition from Twisters to typhoons because they're both.
I thought you were going to say you hope that it's a Twister movie starring Gabriel in the post-apocalypse.
That's just rude.
That'd be a good one too.
Sorry, Gabriel.
M. Night Shyamalan's latest, Knock at the Cabin, comes exclusively to Netflix. The week that this episode airs, it'll be officially on Netflix on March 24th. It did play theaters. It had a good run, actually. It made a decent amount of money. I don't have the figures with me. But it opened #1 that weekend. But it's done. It played in February through now. So it's coming out. So that'll be one that we have to look at probably. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the trailers? We all thought it looked interesting.
Yeah.
It does look interesting. I would like to watch it.
I'm scared. I'm scared to watch it. This is one that I'm just like, man, like sometimes movies just devastate me and I just don't want this one to do that.
Oh, you just don't want, you're afraid it's going to devastate you?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm
he doesn't have a
sensitive.
track record. He has a track record for that. He did make The Village.
That's one of my favorites.
The Village, man. I love The Village.
I know. You guys both love The Village, and I hate it.
We
I
need
thought
to
it was
do
a
that
great
one.
twist at the end.
We do.
Lydia, you and I, one of us got to throw it up
Yes.
there.
I watch that one way too often, honestly.
So
Watched it in the theaters, and I was like, I'm done.
This
No
might not
taste.
be related whatsoever, but just the trailers kind of reminded me of this movie from the 80s where it's got Deneen Moore in it and she's gonna have a baby.
Oh, you're thinking of
And
The Seventh Sign.
The Seventh Sign. I was thinking Seventh
Yeah.
Symbol, but I was like, that's
Yeah,
not right.
Seventh Sign. It's not. It's maybe slightly because there's the apocalypse is looming. That's about it.
Yeah, that's the.
But
yeah, that
The
was
Seventh Sign we have to do. That's like I think that's actually early '90s movie.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a really good one.
Lydia, that was
I mean, I
before
don't
your
remember if
time.
it is. I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
I guarantee
Before
she's
my
never
time.
seen this.
Yeah,
I like how you're saying before my time when I'm always picking like the old black and white
black and
movies,
white
like,
movies, or are they?
or are they black and white?
Man,
Let's ask Derek and find out.
I've got 2 middle fingers, one for each of you guys.
You're
about
like
to-
the Doc. You're
I'm
the
about
Doc
to show
Holliday
you
of
some
middle
sign
fingers. You're the Doc Holliday and middle fingers. I got 2 middle fingers, one for each of you.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, on this week's horror news, guys, they are remaking Faces of Death.
Really?
We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to star I don't know how to pronounce his name. Doc Ray Montgomery from Stranger Things and Barbara Ferreira. So, you know, old boy Billy from Stranger Things.
Okay.
Yep.
And the plot is the new plot revolves around a female moderator of a YouTube-like website whose job is to weed out offensive and violent content and who herself is recovering from a serious trauma. That stumbles across a group that is recreating the murders from the original film. But in the story, primed for the digital age, an age of online misinformation, the question faced is, are the murders real or fake?
So we're not talking about
Not bad.
Bo documentary.
We are.
Are we? Okay,
This
because I
is
don't
a-
remember that having a storyline.
It's not. It does have a storyline. It has the storyline of the doctor telling us about all of this and such.
Interesting.
But no, this is not. The original was presented as a documentary and not a narrative. This is a narrative feature that is they're recreating the kills, the murders from the original movie, from the Faces of Death documentary. But is it real or fake, like the original, leaning into the fact that the original Faces of Death was fake.
And see, that when we talked about this, it's been a couple months ago. Like I remember because this was in the like rated X section.
Mhm.
I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah,
sure. And
Yeah.
so I remember like
a sticker on it.
yeah, we got my mom to rent it for us when we were kids.
Yeah, I remember renting it. Yeah.
Yeah, to watch it. And like I remember some of the scenes, and I was told I had never heard anything about this movie since the early 90s. So my assumption was that it was just true. So Jamie kind of blew my mind when he told me it was
a narrative feature. Yeah.
That
fake-
people
yeah.
still talk about it and think that it's real to this
Yeah,
day.
it's a cult film. Yeah.
well, and if you hadn't researched it since the 90s, you wouldn't know that because it's not like they had the internet
Well,
or something
Yeah.
out
Back
there.
then, if you couldn't research it like physically, then you just kind of went off of what was told to you. So yeah, it's misinformation. But I think that sounds interesting. It's not a bad premise for.
It does. It does.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch.
That wraps up this week's edition of the Horror News. So, guys, let's get into it. Picture it. It's sometime last year or the year before. We sit down and we watch this movie. We record an entire episode over it. And then it vanishes into the ether. So now we're here to watch and record this episode once more. It's the mid-'80s. American Werewolf in London has already come out. So that's the pinnacle of practical effects. And then Tom Holland comes out with this story that is as funny as Werewolf, as irreverent as Werewolf, and as gory as Werewolf. But instead of tackling the American, the werewolf, let's tackle vampires. Let's throw in a little Hitchcock with a little Rear Window and whole lot of fun, and we get Fright Night. Guys, when is the first time you guys have watched Fright Night? And is this your first watch? Obviously it's not, because we watched it last year. I know we did. But besides that.
Lydia, you might as
Who
well
wants to
go
go first?
I threw this up as a movie. So go
Oh,
for it.
okay. So I'm not sure when the first time I actually watched this. Yeah, no, I can't recall exactly when the first time I saw this movie, but it definitely sticks with you. And I did buy it at some point, so I've owned it for a while. And then I watch it usually around Halloween time, and I definitely think we watched it last year at some point. And talked about it, even though there's no evidence or proof of this
Whatsoever. Derek still has to go through all the raw footage to see, but Derek, tell us your Fright Night story.
Man, I've watched this movie since I was a kid. I've seen it so many times. I haven't seen it in a couple of years that I can recall. But dude, I remember watching this when I was anywhere between like 10 and 20. I've probably seen this movie 10 times.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And I think you and I kind of briefly talked about this. I liken this to a movie like The Monster Squad. In that it mixes humor and the horror genre, specifically vampires, but it's great.
Yeah, this is one of those that I've lived with for my whole life too. I remember being a kid in the late 80s, early 90s and renting this on VHS and loving it. I mean, who doesn't love quoting, "You're so cool, Brewster"? I mean, I remember watching this movie all the time then, and then throughout the years I watched it. I remember one time it was on AMC Monster Fest when they would on Halloween, and Dad and I sit down and watched it together, and just we're talking about it as we were watching it. Dad's like, "Oh, this was so cool when it came out." I was like, "It still is. It still is cool. I know what you're talking about."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I haven't watched it since probably last year when we talked about this. But so it was fresh in my mind when I did this rewatch. Sarah watched it with me then, and she watched it with me this time too. Because she's like, "Didn't we watch this?" I said, "Sarah, I don't want to get into it."
That's hilarious.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I've been with this movie for a while. Where do you guys want to start?
Man, I'm gonna kick us off because this movie. So rarely, unless you're doing a podcast, do you sit down and like watch a movie to critique it or to most of the time you just watch a movie to watch it. But I forgot like how like into the movie it gets like right off the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Wastes no time.
It starts in third gear and it just goes from there, which I love about the movie because it cuts out a lot of like the upfront like downtime. And sometimes you use that for like story building, but like with this, it's kind of baked into that fast-paced beginning.
Yeah, and the fact that we kind of are introduced to all of our characters, all of our main characters, in a relatively short amount of time, except for Evil. He gets introduced a little bit later, but like in that first scene, we're introduced to Charlie. We're introduced to the neighbor just chilling out there. We don't really know what's going on. We're introduced to Amy, and
Vincent.
Indirectly,
Peter Vincent. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and we're introduced to Peter Vincent, like all within that little. And it's great because actually we're introduced to Peter Vincent almost first through the TV in his, and she's like, "Oh, Peter Vincent's son, you love him," and it just kind of, the way it kind of sets up Charlie's character of liking this guy, but not knowing enough about the lore, which is what Evil's role is. But this opening's really fun because we get to see their like little relationship problems that like she's afraid to move forward with sex. They've been dating for a while. He's kind of ready to take another step because he's a male teenager.
Yeah.
And when she finally decides to, okay, let's do it, he gets sidetracked because he's a male teenager and he sees something out the window.
A coffin,
them carrying in a coffin. And then he's like, "You've got to see this. There's a coffin out here. This is all crazy." And that just kickstarts our story. What do you guys think of this opening?
I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. It's so funny. I love like you get the dialogue before you're even in the house of the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what is going on?
We get that beautiful like push in over the neighborhood into the window. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. It's so funny. I mean, you get like a matte painting into the neighborhood, into the house, and then you see, oh, we're listening to the TV, which is so funny. The dialogue is so cheesy and the show is so cheesy.
when he's like, "I am Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer," and he holds up the stake and it's backwards.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
As he rushes to her, it cracks me up. I'm like, that is so good. That's so good.
So it's so perfect. I love it.
Yeah, he's like making movies that are lower tier than Hammer movies. Like he's not getting the Hammer material. Hammer material was A+ material. He's like the knockoff of Hammer. It's like pretty bad. I love it. And then the whole dialogue with the mom is really funny too.
Yes.
And how like they come downstairs because they get into a little tiff, and they blatantly is like, I'm ready to have sex. His mom's sitting on the couch.
Are you guys having
a lover's splat?
Yeah. Yes. That's such a great line. I love it. It gets a laugh out of me every single time.
I know.
And she starts talking about the divorce rate, and he's like, "We're in high school, Mom." He's like, "Do you know the new neighbors?" Just fixated on it. And she's like, "Bye, Charlie." And he's just peeking, and she storms out, all
Yeah.
pissed off. What do you guys think of the casting here? What do you think of Charlie?
I like Charlie.
Yep.
He's a goofy high school kid. you
Yeah,
know?
William Ragsdale is Charlie. What do you think of Amy,
I
which is-
love Amy.
which is Amanda Bearse, of course,
She's
from Married with
amazing.
Children?
So
Yeah.
that is the knock on like typecasting. So this is totally me. But every time that I see her, I'm like, that's Darcy.
Yeah, Marcy Darcy.
Marcy Darcy.
Was she in like
That's what I
Real?
thought.
I want to say Real Genius, or is that someone else? I could be totally wrong, but
I think it is somebody else.
she has like a completely different haircut if it's her in that.
Yeah, Real Genius is pretty funny. Yeah, it's somebody else.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot. I was trying to picture
Yeah.
her in that role.
Yeah, it's not her. It
But she
is
does a great job in this.
Michelle Myrink in Real Genius. But yeah, no, she's great. And
She
then
is.
we'll just talk about him up front. Let's talk about Roddy McDowall as Peter Vincent.
Amazing.
Because he's the absolute best, right?
He's
Double.
the best.
Double
Ah.
awesome.
My
One of
favorite.
my all-time favorite characters ever
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Peter Vincent. I love him
For
dearly. Like,
sure.
I'm very protective of Peter Vincent as a character. I'm like, you better fucking make sure Peter Vincent's not. He better not get hurt. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. He's
He's
so
so good.
fun.
Well,
Yes.
and this goes back to misinformation, right? Like this is the 80s, and so whenever Charlie, sees that coffin, immediately, I think he thinks that Peter Vincent is the person who's going to help
Well,
him.
he only when he gets desperate.
I
He
guess
doesn't
only,
even think.
but
Yeah.
the fact that he thinks of him as an expert when in reality he's just an actor portraying
Well,
a character.
I think it's less him being like, oh, he's definitely the expert, and more like, I have nobody else that's going to even believe me. Like, my last shot is this schlocky fucking host of this TV series.
Who gets?
Um,
Okay, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But
yeah.
he just happened to get canned right at that time.
So, yeah. And then, of course, it kind of just starts. We get like the first, vampirism start to happen. Charlie sees a girl in, walking up to Jerry Dandridge's house.
A very attractive lady.
Yep. Who looks like she is, a woman of the night, as they were.
Hmm.
But before we get into that, we're introduced to Ed. Let's talk about Ed. Stephen Jeffries as Ed. What do you guys think of Evil Ed?
He is so unique.
Very unique guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, face, voice, character.
Mannerisms,
Like,
yeah.
Very
Ed,
fun.
meaning the guy who catches Charlie like snooping around the house.
No, Evil Ed. Let's
Evil Ed.
introduce to You're So Cool, Brewster.
Oh,
Yeah.
His name's Ed.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
hilarious because I just
yeah,
That's hilarious. 'Cause
yeah.
I'm
It's
just
evil.
like, oh, that's evil.
Yeah, Evil Ed.
The Ed threw me off. I was like, what?
Yeah, evil.
Yeah, evil is what I know. That's what he goes by on the streets.
Yeah.
Is evil.
What are your thoughts on him, Derek?
He is super unique, and he's super wiry. He's kind of got like a rat-like
Mm-hmm.
essence to him, but he also is the expert in all things vampire. And
Yeah,
so,
occult. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's great that Charlie like goes to him for like, you got to take this
Yeah, we'll get
seriously.
there. Yeah, we'll get there.
But yeah, he's great. Perfect casting.
But yeah, Billy Cole is the name of the caretaker of Charlie's,
Yeah.
of Jerry Dandridge. And Jerry Dandridge is played by Chris Sarandon. Let's talk about him real fast. He's great as well.
Humperdinck.
He's so like just charismatic, and he's charismatic and sinister at the same time.
Mhm.
He's good at pulling off both.
Yeah, there's a scene I really want to talk about when we get to it, but he has a presence about him.
Yeah, presence. Yeah.
That is first off, the guy is super handsome,
Yeah.
right? And then
And then-
he looks distinguished, and he's just
Well, and it's the fact that like the way he carries himself, just with this just confidence. Like when we get to the nightclub scene, we'll talk about it because he is like just kind of mesmerizing in that scene. You're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see you're just kind of oozing into his arms. I might do some oozing myself. Like, good heavens. But yeah, so we see a woman of the night entering into Jerry Dandridge's abode. And then later that night, Charlie is looking out the window as one's wont to do, and he sees this Jerry like making out with this girl, takes her top off, she's nude, so he's like, score, and he grows fangs and he's about to bite her, and he sees Charlie, and he closes the blind and we get that cool close-up of his fucked up hand. Yeah. That's great, right?
It is good.
It's weird too. He doesn't just like see him, he kind of like senses him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the vampiric.
Yeah.
And then he and the way he like kind of just the way he looks at him, like acknowledges him and pulls it down is so like creepy. But to Jerry's credit, he's trying to just be like, hey, I'll let this kid, I just won't mention it. Won't mention it.
Yeah. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I want to talk about the music in that scene though. And the music throughout this movie is excellent. The music is awesome in this movie.
It is. It's definitely for the period, but it's excellent for sure.
Yeah, it rules. It like just slaps kind of. Especially that scene there where he's it's like playing that like kind of like sexy kind of synth music and then like it just sinister at the right amount. Yeah. So of course, Charlie is he's thinking that this is a vampire. He's starting to put the pieces together because he sees on the news that that woman is missing.
Yep.
And he is sensing that this is a pattern of missing girls. There's been a pattern of missing girls. And we get like he sees it a couple times because then he sees them carrying out a body, basically. And he's, of course, because he sees him again, sees it happen again in the window, sees them carrying out a body. He's hiding in the bushes.
Oh, when his mom comes out.
Dude, I love the fact that they give Jerry this quirk of eating an apple
to cleanse the palate.
Yeah, it's just a great like character beat, right? That he has this and he's just eating this apple. And the fact that he sees him, Charlie's mom yells for him and he senses him in the bushes and kind of throws the apple at him and he's like it runs off.
Like a total dork.
Well, at this point he knows because he feels the bat go over his head, sees the bat, and then a second later Jerry arrives, throws the bag to him, and he's like, so now he's convinced this is a vampire. And so he mentions it to his friends, and they're just kind of like, all right, whatever. And then he brings it to the police, and he brings over this cop. So this cop, by the way, is definitely a cop is definitely works in the airport in Die Hard 2.
100% he does, yeah.
Yeah. He sure does.
He's been in a couple of like minor roles and throughout movies.
He's the guy that walks across the Anik Skywalk in Die Hard 2. But this scene where Charlie goes in and talks with Billy Cole and the detective. What do you guys think of this bit?
Well, first off, Billy is just kind of a unique character as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's got
Yeah.
some weird little quirks. Was he in House 2?
He might have been. Let me see. Keep talking. I'll check it.
I always think this guy looks familiar too, and I can never figure out what he's
Yeah.
from.
He is in House 2, the second story. You're right.
The second story.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's an amazing one we'll get to one day.
We'll get
but
to this House movies.
he's also got a strange presence about. So like where the main character, the main vampire, has got this like
Jerry.
yeah, Jerry's got this very what's the word I'm thinking of? Either way, this guy's got the complete opposite. He's like real like weird.
Yeah, he doesn't have any
presence to him.
charisma, that's for sure.
Yeah, he does not.
Kind of this weird blank slate guy.
Yeah,
and he's like got this kind of sinister, like just creepiness, otherworldliness to him.
Yep.
I mean, we find out later he's a ghoul, right? I mean, he's a ghoul.
Yeah, he is.
Mhm.
Except he's not falling apart like our favorite ghoul.
Oh my
But
god.
he's a ghoul nonetheless. And yeah, so this I like the scene where the detective comes over there, because he's almost got him, but then he just crumbles so horribly. Like crumbles so horribly.
Well,
Mhm.
he brings up what do you think's down there? I think was
A
the
coffin.
the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, a coffin. He could have said anything. He could have said, "Well, the remains of the girl. I saw
Yeah.
this." Anything, and then
Mhm.
the cop might have said, "Let me look in your basement." But instead, he's like, "A coffin," and he looks at Billy Cole like, "Gotcha," and he's like, "Oh, ooh," and he's like, "What's wrong with this kid?" And he's like, "Because he's a vampire." What? And it just goes right downhill.
Yep.
And he's like, "And I'm Dirty Harry," you know.
Yeah.
Don't you ever come by the police station again? Yeah. Good stuff. So, when he goes to Evil for help, because he's kind of at the end of his rope, because before that, we get Jerry makes a visit to Charlie.
I love this little visit.
This visit is one of my all-time favorite bits.
You care if I
Yeah, take it.
say something? Okay. So Jerry, I think this visit was to say, "Hey, I understand that you know what I am," and he even tells them, "I'm going to give you the chance I never had." He's trying to like tell this kid to just back off and let me do my thing, and he pushes it. So like that gives you a little bit of like insight into Jerry and like how this is a curse on him.
But
Is how I felt.
But does it? Because is he trying to not hurt Charlie because of some thing in his heart that's telling him that he's going to give this kid a chance? Or does he not want to have to move again when the neighbor kid comes up missing or dead?
I would say I would lean towards the first option, only because of the dialogue where he says, "I'm going to give you the choice I never had," which I would
think
love to
that's-
see a fucking backstory on that. That sounds awesome.
Mhm.
But then Charlie won't let it
Well,
go.
I think it's really funny when he walks in and he's like, "Oh, he's because he visits Evil Ed, and Ed tells him, here are the rules to a vampire. You know, holy water hurts them. You can stake them, and that kills them. And the most important rule is that they can't enter a house, and they can't enter anywhere unless they're invited
By the rightful owner.
by the rightful owner." So he's like, "Whew, I'm saved." He tells me about garlic. So that Ed scene is really funny, because he like gives him money. He's like, "Far be it from me," and he pockets the cash and just kind of, "Listen, Brewster, here's what's going on." Thinks he's a fruitcake, but just giving him all the information he knows about vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie's feeling pretty confident. He's like, "Oh, he can't come into the house because he's not been invited in." And he walks in, and Jerry's just chilling on the chair. And he's like, "What? Do you think that if your mom never invited me over, I wouldn't come over?" And he's like, "You're quite right. But now I'm going to come over anytime I like. With your mom's permission, of course." And
Yeah.
she's just like eligible bachelor over here. She's like, "Oh, Jerry, you can come over anytime."
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, it sure is. What do you guys think of this little visit before we get to the scare?
It's creepy. It's creepy. He's like preparing, nail in the window shut. He's like ready, and then he's just already in the house. Like all that was for nothing.
All worthless, all for naught.
Well, and this is a great scare tactic and intimidation on his behalf.
Tactic for sure. Yeah,
because he's like, "Oh, I am in your house. I can come and go as I please, and there's nothing you can do about it."
right. Yeah,
And so, yeah, and it's great editing to have that happen right after he feels so confident and safe that, well, there's no way he can get
nailing
into
the
my
window
house.
shut and everything.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Yep. And then
Whoops.
then of course Jerry comes back that night and visits him. And this is what you talked about, Derek. And he just he starts throwing him around. He breaks into the mom's room, pulls the door so it's bashed shut so it can't open, pops it off the frame, and then he's like, "You wouldn't want to wake your mom, would you? We'd have to kill her too." Then he starts like throwing him through fucking shit, and I'm like, "Jerry, I think you're gonna wake her up."
Yeah.
Just gonna say it. But it's a great scene. It's so tense. He pulls up the window with E, just flicks it with his finger, all the nailed window, and he's pushing him out of it, and you see like the fence, a picture drops and impales on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he grabs a pencil and stabs him in the hand, and we get that great pencil effect. And then he transforms. What do you guys think of his monster makeup?
It's startling. Like the first time you see it, you're just like, whoa. Like
It's pretty terrifying, actually. Yeah. It's a great makeup.
It is.
It's like really scary.
I think the eyes are my favorite part. Like these are actually like really scary vampire eyes compared to like a lot of vampire movies. They're not like this scary, I feel like,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like the way the eyes like kind of glow.
They're so vivid and like freaky.
Yeah, bright. Yeah. And then his voice changes as well. It drops in octave and stuff. And he's just like, ugh. And then here's the mom, and he's like, which I think is really funny that he's like, shit.
Yeah, it is funny.
And he's like, and then just takes off. And then we get that great bit where he calls him on the phone afterwards. And he says, "I just destroyed your car, Charlie. Now tomorrow night, I'm going to destroy you." And you're just like, oh, man. Bad news, Chuck. Bad news. What do you think, Derek?
Oh, I love this scene. It does everything that it needs to. It kind of gives us that timer, which gets a little delayed because of what comes after. But like, the countdown is kind of started. Like, yep, I've got 24 hours, and then I'm dead. But I do love this visit. And the one takeaway that I've gotten from this movie is never ever stab a vampire with a wooden pencil in his hand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gets him off of him. Got him off of him.
It does. It also transforms him into like his like scary monster face, and you're just like, must
don't
be
like
the
it.
lead.
Don't like it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, he could have just said, "Yeah, I'll forget about it and just let you be a vampire."
Except he can't do that because he's seeing innocent women being murdered. Yeah, he can't sit by and let people get murdered.
I would have looked the other way.
What if that was your daughter, Derek?
I could always have another one.
Well,
I'm just kidding, Ellie. Just kidding. Daddy'd seek revenge.
Oh, but you wouldn't. You would seek revenge, but you wouldn't stop him.
No, I would seek revenge by stopping him. You know what? I would infuse a bunch of apples with some garlic.
Sneak into his house and replace him.
No, I'd send him a box of fruit. Be like, oh, here, no hard feelings. Nothing's wrong with these apples. They're perfect.
I think it's a foolproof plan. I really do. So Charlie visits Peter Vincent, and it goes about as well as you would expect it to go.
Yeah. As he's
You know-
getting fired, walking out of his office with his stuff.
Yeah, all under his arm, and he's just like, I have just been canceled.
And he gets a fanatic run up to him. And
And at
he's
first
like,
he's like-
do you want an
Yeah,
autograph?
first he is flattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish more people of your generation would, like the classics. Instead, you like people people wearing masks, massacring people in the woods. And I was like, yes, I do enjoy that.
Yeah, mask wielding machete killers.
Yeah.
I was like,
Ironically enough.
I was like, that's actually my jam. I'm
yeah,
part of that generation. Sorry about that, Peter.
yeah. That was a good one. I love that line.
So,
For both.
yeah. So then he, tells him, yeah, there's a vampire living next door to me. And he's like, bye. Toodles. He fucking gets out of there. He beats feet. Don't blame him.
Nope.
And then, Charlie's just going deeper and deeper. He's like, he's in his room using a stake, like carving out steaks and candles all over his room and shit. And Evil and Amy are like, yeah, what if we talk to Peter Vincent? He's like, I already tried. He's like, well, let us give him a call. So, the timing works out perfectly because Peter Vincent not only has been fired, but he's broke. He's about to be evicted. It's like life's kind of turning to shit. The poor guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so they show up and they're like, he's like, do you want to interview me for your school paper? And they talk about Charlie, and he says, that boy is really disturbed. Like, yeah, but can you help us? He's like, I am actually on my way out of town I just got a major role in a major motion picture. I'll give you a $500 bond. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wasted no
Gosh.
time.
I love his little apartment too. His house, wherever he's living, is so
Yes.
decked out in like movie vampire stuff.
Yeah, the props from his films.
Yes.
Yeah.
How fantastic is
I
that?
love his little smoking jacket that he's wearing. And
Yeah.
his little prop from the movie he shows him and just, puts it in his pocket, all of it. Yeah, it's so cool.
Love
It's
it.
so cool. And so he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So they call Jerry and they're like, hey, so how about this? Can we have him come over? We'll prove that you're not a vampire. And he's like, he won't take crosses because he's a born again Christian and he finds it sacrilege. Same with holy water. But he can do regular tap water. And we'll just pretend like it's holy water. That way you can make Charlie believe that he's not a vampire. So Jerry's like, that's great. Let's do that. We won't have to go out tonight. They're going to bring him to us and we'll, settle in this now.
But just to give Charlie the benefit of the doubt, if you call a person who is a suspected vampire and they're like, yeah, I don't like crosses and no holy water. I mean, at least my radar would go up a little bit. Like, that's interesting.
Right. If you were Charlie, but Charlie didn't talk to him.
Even if you weren't Charlie, like if you were like, oh, this person's a vampire, and I call and talk to him, like, yeah, we're going to prove that you're not a vampire. Well, all I want you to do is like,
well, not really,
it's
because
just interesting. I would have been
let's put it to us. I mean, if that happened in real life to us, we'd just be like, all right. Because I mean, we don't fucking think vampires are real.
No,
Right, exactly.
suspicious. That's where the rebel with the cause.
You're an atheist, Derek. You don't believe in fucking vampires.
You don't know.
It's like we could be pretty easily convinced that someone's a vampire just by them saying no crosses or holy water. We'd be like, they're a vampire.
There have to be.
They have to be a vampire.
They have to be. No, I mean, if you really wanted to prove that they're not, you'd say, can we do it in the middle of the day outside? But,
But he had an excuse for that.
Yep, he's going to be gone.
Yep.
He won't be back until that evening. So he had an excuse for pretty much everything.
Yep.
As flimsy as they could be, right? So this scene where they all go is great, right?
Yeah, I love it. They roll on up to this spooky old house.
Yep. All of the whole little Scooby gang here, they roll up. And, he's like, this is holy water. I'm going to have him drink this. And he's like, well, why don't you grab your stakes? He's like, no, Charlie, no. He's like, that would be rude. No, I can't do that. I need to prove that he's a vampire first. Well, what if he tries to kill us? Well, I am here to protect you because I am Peter Vincent. And then, of course, they go in and he does a little test. He checks it. It's really interesting. He checks it in the fire. I don't know if he could see if there's a difference or not, but he checks it in the fire and he's just like, bottoms up.
He's a little bit hesitant.
He's a little hesitant. Yeah, because he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
So he takes it. Everything's fine. He's like, you satisfied? And Charlie's like, what about he pulls out his cross. He has his cross ready. And he's like, oh, Charlie, would you stop it? There's no reason to be rude, is what he says. And everybody's all gathering and talking afterwards. And, he sees Amy and he's immediately like taken with her.
Well, yeah, there's a picture of her.
A portrait
A
that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
Painting. Yeah. So he's like, he's immediately enchanted with her, and he's like putting on the moves. That's great. He goes up and kisses her hand. And he's like, isn't that what vampires are supposed to do? And everybody's like, oh, you. And Charlie's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna flaunt this right in your face.
Yep. He's like, uh-huh. And then
He's so smug, like
yeah, he is. He's just all about it. He's like, fuck you. And then yeah, so that's great. And then of course we get the reveal with
This was
Peter Vincent.
telegraphed.
It was earlier in the movie.
Yep, because he was like, oh, this prop was from this movie. This is when I saw them in the mirror and I couldn't see them.
Yep.
And so
So
he
he did the
telegraphed exactly what was going to happen.
Yep. So he opens up the thing. He sees it, sees that there's no reflection of Jerry, drops it. It cracks. He's like, let's get out of here. He ushers all of the kids out. Very he does a really good job, actually, though, of you can tell he's afraid, but he doesn't give the fear away. He's just kind of like, we've taken up enough of your time. Let's get out of here. And then once he's outside, he's like shaking and shit. And he's like, he had no reflection, and drove off. He's like, I'm out. And then Jerry steps on a piece of glass, so he knows that they know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that sequence, you guys?
it's so great. It's so fun. It's like it just sets everything into motion for what the
It
next
does.
what's the plan now.
It's the catalyst that drives the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so I really think that this is just great storytelling. This scene is, pretty much perfect for what it's going to do for the rest of the film, but also this whole charade of, oh, he's not really a vampire, and it's interesting, and the reveal is really great. So the scene is an A+.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And it leads into my favorite sequence of the movie, which is the alley scene in the nightclub scene. What do you guys think of this? Which you want to talk? You want to talk about the alley scene first?
Might as well get evil out of the way.
Hit it, Lydia.
I don't know how to set this one up very well, but they're just they're just walking home, right?
Yeah, they're all
go
walking
separate
home,
ways.
and then Evil goes his own way.
Yeah, he wants to go through the shortcut through the alley, and they're like, "Are you crazy? We need to stay where it's brightly lit lots of people, lots of witnesses to anything that might happen. And Evil is like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm going through the alley. And he goes into the alley and they walk away and you hear a scream from the alley and they run back to see if he's okay. And he is on the ground and writhing in pain like he's been bitten. And they find out that he has not been bitten and he's just pranking them.
He says, I'll give you a hickey.
Yeah. So they get all mad at him and they go and he goes through the alley and who shows up?
But Jerry.
The vampire.
We should call him Jer Bear from now on.
Dude, the scene in the alley is great. The atmosphere of it, the fog, the music, the way Jerry's walking with his fucking trench coat, he looks badass.
Yeah, I like where because it goes up like it's like some kind of like crane shot or something upwards, and you hear him walking on the fire escapes, like the metal fire escapes, and then you hear like wings, like these big wings. Yeah. And then he's down at the ground, which I thought was really cool effect.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then he's just walking like he just looks so cool.
Yeah,
walking
very casual.
Fog. Yeah. And he corners Evil Ed
stalking him.
Corners him into a dead end.
Well, and
then what?
The one
not
thing
a very good shortcut.
No. Terrible shortcut. Ed, you're an idiot.
Yep. It's like that scene in Beauty and the Beast whenever there's a fork in the road and this one's brightly lit and this one is like dark and dangerous. But anyway, speaking
that one might be a casualty.
Anyway, so this is an interesting scene because as much as Jerry is recruiting Ed at this point, it's almost like a seduction of like, you have no power, you are a nobody, you're different than everybody else.
Yeah, he breaks him down psychologically. He breaks him down.
Yep. Yeah. And then he offers him power, essentially. Yeah. And so it's a very good seduction scene.
Yeah, and it's very scary too if you put yourself in that situation, like,
for sure.
Oh my God.
He kind of leaves you no choice.
Yeah, it's either you die or you live forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's great stuff. But we're not done, guys, because now we have the nightclub scene. So our other two, Charlie and Amy, are walking down their road and the lights go out and we see like a transformer like beat to shit. And then we see Jerry, and everywhere they walk, he's in front of them. He just gets there before they do. So they cut through into this nightclub, and we get this insane nightclub scene where Jerry just seduces the pants off of Amy, essentially. Right? I mean, her panties were floor dropping at this point.
Yeah, to music that doesn't quite match like how they're dancing.
No, but it's the music is so cool though.
Yeah, it works. It's a really good scene, and you really see like she's not just like a nerdy like high school girl. She's like really beautiful. Like,
she can be a sex pot. Yeah,
yeah. You really like see her in a different light, and you're like, okay, all right, she's like into this. Like that's cool.
The shot that I love is when you see the mirror and you see her just spinning herself.
Yeah.
That's great. And of course, Charlie is trying to call Peter Vincent at this point, and he looks and realizes he's being cucked the fuck up.
Yeah, I mean that's what he gets for just never paying attention to her, I guess, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. And he sees her, and so he breaks in. Dude, she she starts to go hard. Like she like drops down, like crotch level on him and shit. And you're just like,
well, he's like rubbing her thighs and stuff.
Yeah, all up. She's
like
17. And
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's
That
immortal.
doesn't matter to
doesn't,
vampires.
yeah, he's but I was like, are they gonna fuck right here in the middle of the nightclub?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
They're just gonna hit it up.
it gets spicy.
It gets
I just,
heated.
I expected Patrick Swayze to walk in. The way
From
they were
both-
dirty dancing.
from both Dirty Dancing and Roadhouse, because then he starts
Yeah.
spin kicking people in the face.
Yeah. Just take down this vampire.
So
That's a movie.
yeah, it is. If only Patrick was still with us.
Yeah.
We'd
Yeah.
have Roadhouse Vampire. I mean, they kind of did it. It's called From Dusk Till Dawn, I suppose.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, yeah, that just came into my head too.
yeah. So when these security guards, it's not good news for them when these bouncers try to
Oh
mess with
man,
Jerry.
they don't stand a chance.
He slaps the one dude, he cuts old boy's throat with his freaking knife fingers. And he picks up that one giant dude like he's nothing, and his like eyes are glowing. He's like, great stuff. So they escape into the crowd, but Charlie loses her again. Jerry takes her, and we get that great like double push in on him, where we zoom in 3 times, and he's smiling at him, and they take off. It's great stuff, right?
Yep.
What do you guys think of this one? This scene? It's like
This
just-
scene's cool. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he does that just takes these 2 guys out in front of everyone and just like totally blows his cover of anything.
yeah,
Like is so shocking, you know. And,
It
he-
is,
and then
yeah.
again, he's got the eyes that are just bright orange. Like
Yeah.
they just, oh man, they're so freaky.
he becomes animalistic because he's this we just saw him as this charming, like freaking smoldering sex god,
Uh-huh.
and then he's like this feral animal again. You're like, oh, that's right, that's who he really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, great dichotomy, great stuff. Let's talk about Peter Vincent meeting Ed again in the apartment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you
And
guys think of
knocks
this
on the
bit?
door.
Mm-hmm.
Knocks on Peter Vincent's door, and he's like, "Let me in! There's vampires out here." So he lets him in.
Because he's like, I know that shit's real now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we see that he has been completely turned,
Mhm.
and he's got these teeth, and he's like just super creepy and crazy. His like little weird mannerisms are turned up,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and he attacks Peter, and Peter pushes a cross against his forehead, and it peels the skin. What do you guys think of that effect? I love it
Great.
so much.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
I
Agreed.
love his reaction too, of like his pain reaction to that.
Yeah, it's just
He's
like,
so upset.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
he
he's
tries
just
to-
sad.
and he tries to look at himself in the mirror, but he can't because he casts no reflection.
Yeah.
So he's like, "What have you done? The master will kill you for this. Not fast. Oh, so slow."
Mhm.
And he's like crying. Yeah, it's great. And then he takes off out the window. So scary, but
Mhm.
funny. Great stuff. And then Charlie comes to visit Peter Vincent, and he's like, "Touch this."
Holds the
So he
cross
does.
out of the
Yep.
door.
So he does, and he's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We've got to do this." And he tries to convince him, and Peter Vincent basically says he can't do it because he's scared.
Yep.
Which, of course you're scared. Why wouldn't you be? So Charlie's like, "I've got to go by myself." So he leaves Peter and goes, and he's going to go face Jerry Dandridge alone in that house to try to get Amy back. Meanwhile, guys, we got us another steamy scene.
Mhm.
What do you guys think of this one? Amy's turning.
Yeah, when she's on that like animal fur blanket on the floor by the
on
fireplace.
blanket on the
Yep.
yeah.
Doesn't get more steamy than that.
No,
Nope.
he's not wearing a shirt.
Yeah. I personally I don't find what's his name? Chris Sarandon.
Chris Sarandon. Mhm.
I don't find him that attractive personally. So every time I watch this, I'm just like kind of cringy, you know? I'm just like, no. But yeah, like and that just really shows you like the effectiveness because it is so steamy, and I'm like, I do not even find him attractive at all, but it's so it's like he is like very suave.
Yeah, he's very suave, and when she goes to say something, he goes shh, just like shushes her. This moment where he just shushes her, I'm like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
This guy is going hard.
Yeah, he's way more smooth than our main character when he's trying to flirt, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll tell you the pancake story at the end of this.
Okay. What do you think of this scene?
Par for the course. It's setting up, her transition, and then like I think at the end of it, he's like, "Let's leave her," because she's going through the transformation, and then essentially like setting up her to
be with him. I love the last shot of this scene where he bites her neck, and we see just the 2 drips of blood go down her shoulder blade.
Yeah,
is so great. Then the third one follows afterwards. It's like just a great image.
Yeah,
classic,
pretty good. Good for the vampire movie kind of images.
Aesthetic.
Yeah. Aesthetic.
Just nails it. And it's the way it's filmed, like the close up of it and everything. It just looks great.
And like the warm, like like the firelight and everything.
Yeah. Gives us that smooth. 80s. That's 80s sex, man. Fireplaces or blue filters. That's as sexy as the world gets.
Yep.
That's what my living room looks like.
blue firelight.
Yep.
And it is weird every time I go over to Derek's. Every time I go over to Derek's, he's like sitting on the floor with his shirt off and on a piece of fur.
On like a mink blanket.
I got some Boys to Men in the cassette player.
He's full Burt Reynolds mode.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's an image. Sorry about that, audience. So the end game happens at this point. We get into the third act, and we get a bunch of really cool shit in this third act, like a bunch. So Peter Vincent shows up to help Charlie, and they go into the house to get Amy back, and they get Jerry comes down and he says, "The greatest." He says,
"Welcome to Fright Night." For real.
It's a great little bit. It's just because he's such a cocky asshole, and you're just like, oh man, this guy.
Yeah.
He just knows. He knows he's the shit. That's the worst part about it is you can't really argue with him. You're like, hey, you kind of are the shit. You are like, just crushing off everything you're doing. So I mean, what? What are we gonna say about it?
Yeah, he's centuries old, so like he's gonna have some confidence.
Yeah. He has that swagger down.
Does it ever say how old he is?
No,
it doesn't.
So
I think it might in the sequel, but I don't remember because Jerry's sister comes in the sequel. But yeah, so Peter Vincent tries to scare him with the cross, and he says, "You have to have faith in order for that to work on me." Charlie pulls out his, and he's like, "Oh!" And they start forcing him back, and then Billy Cole comes. Well, first they shoot him right in the face before he shows up because he keeps coming at him, and Peter's like, I'm warning you, and he shoots him right in the face. He falls down, and then as he's scaring him with the cross, Billy Cole rises back up, and they keep shooting him, and he keeps getting back up and bleeding this like yellow pus, and he just keeps coming until finally Charlie stakes him And then we have a meltdown scene. Guys, you know how much we love meltdown scenes.
We
a good one.
do.
What do you guys think of this meltdown scene?
It's pretty good. It's pretty
Pretty good.
strong. It's pretty melty,
Yeah.
you know?
All the way to the bones.
I
Yep.
really like that it turns to sand. I like that it goes from
Yeah.
gross shit to sand.
Yeah, like who thinks of that? I mean, there's
That's a-
sand. You see the bones and then you just see sand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
brilliant.
good.
Yeah, and then it just, and then the way the skull flies across the room and then it hits.
And it still looks angry.
Yeah. Yeah, the meltdown goes down. And then it's too much for old Peter Vincent, and he ends up running to go next door to help to check on basically essentially to check on Charlie's mom, to get away, see if he can get some help. And he can't hear Charlie's mom. So he gets afraid when he answers the phone, he sees that it's cut. So he goes upstairs. And
I love his reaction to that.
the phone cut.
Yeah, because he goes from like yelling her name to like the way he yells her name after he discovers that it's cut is just so sweet. You're like, oh, he's such a
Yeah, because
nice
he's
guy.
so
He's
scared for her.
So
Yeah.
scared.
He goes up there, and instead of finding Mrs. Brewster, he finds Ed, evil Ed, laying in the bed, and Evil stands up with a Raggedy Ann fucking mop on his head.
Yeah. Which
And
was disturbing.
It was really creepy in the way he's reading. He's like, dinner is in the oven. And he like tries to attack him, and we get this great standoff where he turns into a wolf. And the wolf lunges at him, and he pierces it with the broken table leg.
Yep.
And we get this wolf transformation. What do you guys think of this wolf transformation?
Sick.
Kind of sad.
It is.
Oh,
It's really
definitely
good,
sad.
though.
It's
It's
really,
really
good.
good.
Excellent. No, it is excellent, but like it made me sad, mainly because we lost him.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
we lost Evil, and just it
He's
made
a
me
boy.
sad.
He is a boy.
Yeah.
And we watch him go through this terrible transformation and this painful transformation. When he dies, he's just an innocent teenager.
Mhm.
So it is kind of, and Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowell's acting in this part is amazing because he's like scared, but he's also crying because he feels bad for the kid. It's just, it's awesome. Great stuff. Yeah, the meltdown or that transformation rules. It's a good transformation.
Yeah, I mean, and seeing that wolf is just really cool anyways,
Mhm.
Yeah. It rules. So Charlie's been kidnapped and placed in the room with Amy because she's turning, and he's going to be her first meal. And the fact that Jerry sticks the freaking stake in the ground and it's like, you do you, is so fucked up. It's so fucked up. He's just like, game over. But Peter gets his resolve after he kills.
He finds himself.
After he kills Ed by himself, after he kills Evil by himself, he's like, I've got to go over there and help Charlie. So he busts him out. You see Amy's all messed up. And her hair grows longer, her tits get bigger. That's what happens when you become a vampire, apparently.
Who knew?
And she's like breathing real heavily and shit. It's really like disturbing. And they have a standoff with old Jerry. And finally, Peter Vincent he has to get faith. So he finally gathers his faith enough to force him back. And as he's forcing him back, we realize the sun's starting to come out. So the sun shines through the pane glass window and hits his shoulder. And he turns into this fucking hell bat, right?
Right?
What do you think of this bat?
It's good. It's so big. Like that's a big
It's giant, right?
kind of puppet thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And the fact that it's like he's, attacks Peter Vincent, he's holding it off with a bone in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's like, ah! And then it, Charlie puts it into the light again. So he takes off into the basement and they follow him down to kill him. And while they're down there, Amy awakes because before that, he's up on the roof and he's like, Amy, if you love me, wake. And she awakens. So she's down in the basement. That was pretty good, right? When they're down in the basement about to, he has 2 coffins, one for her as well. So because if they don't kill him by dawn and they sleep in the earth, she's gone. They have to kill him. So we have a cool little fight in the basement. Peter Vincent stakes Jerry while Charlie is, holding off Amy with the cross and stuff, and they're trying to fight, and he holds her off with the cross, and he stakes him, but he misses the heart. He instead hits the shoulder. So he does that cool freaking raise up out of the coffin and comes down, and he's fucking pissed. He pulls that thing out of his shoulder and throws it, but it breaks a piece of the black glass.
Yeah.
So they all get the bright idea to start breaking all of the glass around him. And he's like running out of places to go. In that bit where they got him, he thinks he's safe, and he's coming for Peter Vincent, and Charlie rushes over and pulls the curtain down, and he just gets blasted. And what do you guys think of that, like, sunshine hit? Like his destruction.
It looks great. They throw like some kind of green flame effect on him, like as he's like exploding and like burning and stuff. It's pretty cool.
And they have like the skeleton of the bat creature.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things going on, but it doesn't look overdone. Like it looks really good. It
looks cool. What do you guys think of this ending? This third act. I think it's pretty crackerjack myself.
Yeah. It's action packed. It's like you're sitting on the edge of your seat, like, wait, you're like, oh, finally, they got him. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, they've tried so many times already.
Yeah, and there's a couple of callbacks. So at the first time that man, his name just eluded me. Not Jerry. Charlie. The first time that Charlie kind of gets caught like snooping around, the caretaker is painting windows. So this is a callback to that. Them breaking out the windows, and also like the green flame is going to be a special effect, but like the core of this is practical. Yeah, I know we talk about it a lot with these older movies, comparing them to today, but like it makes a huge difference in movies this because it looks so good.
Yeah, it's like a real thing that's there.
Yeah,
it's tangible. It's tangible. Yeah. So then, the ending of the actual ending proper, everybody's back to normal. Charlie and Amy are back to normal. Peter Vincent's got his show back. So he's talking about not only vampires, but aliens, which would have been a fun place to take the sequel.
I was thinking that too.
And I think that might have been kind of Tom Holland's thought process. He didn't make the sequel, so that's why it's another vampire. But it's a cool like little idea. And then they're kissing, they're back together, and then Charlie sees 2 eyes in the window, and he stops and looks at it, and then he doesn't see it anymore. So he goes back, and they're kissing, and as we pull out, we hear Evil's voice saying, "You're so cool, Brewster." Then we're out. What do you guys think of this ending?
Yeah, it leaves you hanging. You're like, ooh,
is
that him over there?
At least it sets up. At least it sets up the idea of a sequel, but it is misleading because you're like, Evil survived, so he's going to be. He's now promoted.
Yeah, to be fair, we never did see his body.
Yeah. Because that would
the other one's like dissolved.
Problem.
Yeah.
That would be a problem of how coming home and there's like a a dead kid in your hallway.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, with the fucking stake through his chest. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Where did
But it's a
he
fun
go?
ending. It's a fun ending.
Yeah, it is fun. Definitely leaves it open.
And for more adventures with all of them, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Fright Night. What do you guys think? Lydia, you want to go first?
Oh, shoot. You go first this time.
I'll go first this time.
I'll go first.
All right, go first, Derek.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so this movie's just fun, and it's just fun from like the get-go till the end. It doesn't have a lot of fat. The story is a good story at its core. It's entertaining. The effects are really good. The characters are great. The actors that they got to play these characters are great. I think Peter Vincent is just one of the greatest characters. He's so
he is.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about him. You just fall in love with that character, and
Yeah,
I think that Jerry is everything that a suave vampire should be portrayed as. It's just a great movie. I love this movie. I can't wait to show this to Clark when he gets to be 7, and yeah, so for that, I'm going to give this movie an 8.5. That I was just hand gestures.
yes, I got you. I can't count.
You're like, he's going to do a 10 on this movie? I mean, it could be. It's a great movie.
It's a great one, yeah. Lydia, what are your thoughts?
What do you think keeps this movie from being a 10?
Me, personally? I don't know. It's not a stone... I mean, it kind of is a stone cold classic, but it's not mainstream classic. You know what I mean? Like,
More of a cult classic.
It is kind of a cult classic, exactly. Like Jaws is... Not only is it a... Because we gave that... I think we all gave that a 10.
Yeah,
like,
if we could have given it 12s, we would have. Yeah.
That's a masterclass in like directing and storytelling, and I mean, but it's mainstream, like it's a classic movie. This is more of a cult classic, so I could probably give this movie a 9, but I wouldn't give it a 10. I'm gonna stick with 8.5. It's a great movie.
What do you think, Lydia?
Yeah, I think I'm right there too. It's definitely a really fun movie. Like when we got done watching it, Jake was like, I forgot how fun that movie was. So yeah, it's like it's a feel-good movie. You put it on. It ends with kind of a good feeling, little
heroes live.
Yeah, it's got great effects, great acting, like probably better than what it has the right to have.
Yes.
And these characters that you really kind of fall in love with. So yeah, I think I'll give it a 9.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it's all those points that you said. I think the writing's really great too. The writing's sharp, and Tom Holland's writing and directing are excellent in this movie. And it just has a really good, like, kind of finger on the pulse of 1980s teenagers. So it kind of nails that, and all of it works. I think just all of it work. And it's a lot of fun. You're never bored watching it. It's not horrifyingly scary,
right?
But it's scary enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's got its moments.
It's got its moments, but it's damn fun. There's just no denying, like you said, it is a feel good. At the end of the movie, all of our heroes, all 3 of our main heroes survived the night, and they're back to where they started. They're better off than where they started. They had this adventure, and you just kind of want to see them go on a new adventure, which is kind of the kind of movie I love. I mean, I love a good dark horror movie as well, but I love a good, I want to see them on a new adventure. So yeah, 8.5. Nope, 9 for me as well. 9. I'm gonna jump up and give it a 9 with you, Lydia. I'm gonna do it. That was Fright Night. So guys, who is Thomas Atkins going to play in Fright Night?
Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me.
Detective, thrill me.
Ooh.
Ooh, I've got a bold choice. Hear me out.
Okay.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
What if we had young Tom Atkins star as Charlie?
Oh,
That could be
Because
fun.
then he could be in the whole movie.
that's true.
I mean, granted, Amy would have already put out if he was Tom Atkins.
Well, I was gonna say like the machismo.
That's why he kind of
on
seems more like a
screen.
Jerry.
Yeah, he would probably be a great Jerry too.
He's very suave, very handsome.
Yep. He is handsome, isn't he?
You know what? I'm gonna make him the ghoul. In my opinion, I would make him the ghoul.
The
I forget
ghoul is
what
kind
his
of
name is.
the ghoul kind of sucks as a
I
character.
know, man, but I
Yeah,
don't.
he would bring a lot to it. He would bring a lot more to it.
Replace everybody. This is a hard one because I like all the characters.
Yeah, I do too. All right, let's go with the ghoul or young
The
Charlie.
cop could be the cop.
The cop's in there for a scene and he sucks. No,
I mean, picture him as Peter Vincent.
I just can't. I
He's
can't
got the-
picture anybody.
He's got the gray hair, the salt and pepper look.
He does, but I can't picture anybody but Roddy McDowell as Peter Vincent.
Yeah, you
Like in the
definitely don't wanna-
remake, that was the hardest for me. I mean, they changed the character and they made it David Tennant as
Oh,
Peter
really?
Vincent. David Tennant plays Peter Vincent, but he plays him as
Oh,
he's a magician as
yes,
opposed to a vampire hunter.
I remember that. Okay.
And I was like, yeah, he's fine. But man,
I
Colin
didn't
Farrell
realize
in
that
it?
was a sequel.
Colin Farrell, that's not a sequel, that's a remake.
That's the remake. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's a sequel in 1988 that came out for this
Okay.
movie.
I
That's
don't
very
remember seeing
hard
that
to
one.
find. Yeah, it's very hard to find. It's not mainstream. Like there's a lot of stuff happened behind the scenes of it. Like basically what happened is somebody, I think like the money, the person that was getting the money died,
Ooh.
or there's a death in the family, and all of it, the money got pulled, and it still was released, but it wasn't the released big theatrically like the previous one was. Because Fright Night was a hit. Fright Night made $25 million off of a $7 million budget. So it was a big
Dang.
hit. It was a big hit in the 80s or in 85. So guys, it's my turn to pick. So next week we'll be watching William Friedkin's classic 1974 masterpiece written by William Peter Blatty, and that is The Exorcist. Finally, we've only been
we're
talking about
getting
it for
to
3
this.
seasons.
Oh
3
my
seasons we've been
goodness.
saying, we really need to do The Exorcist. You know what? We really should do
Yes.
The Exorcist. So guess what?
We're
Next week,
doing
The
it.
Exorcist. It's available on all streaming platforms to rent or buy. It's not streaming anywhere for free. Sorry, guys. And Derek, you said you had a pancake story for us.
Yeah, it's kind of. So I'm gonna like tell you a side story that'll lead into this. So back in the day, I know you're gonna find this really shocking, but like I was always like, I was very shy first off, and this was before cell phones, so don't judge me on that because I didn't have a cell phone. But I was like, man, what if a girl wanted to give me her number and I don't have a piece of paper? So I was like, I'll just carry around a scientific calculator in my pocket, and if she gives me a number, I'll put it in the memory. By the way,
the likelihood of that, did that ever happen?
that never happened. Never happened whatsoever. But if anybody wants to use it as an idea, feel free to go for it. Okay, so like that sets up how ridiculous I was, and I never would have asked a girl out anyway. I told you the story about the girl asking me to go to dance with her because my cousin threatened her life and I ran away. But anyway, all right, so picture this. I get into college. I open up a little bit. I blossom like an onion. I get a little bit of like, I don't know, confidence. And so I'm like going out to like these places on campus and things like that. And I go out with my friends and I'm the guy who like hits on all the girls, not in a creepy way. I keep it classy. So like there was this lady who was doing the bowling alley at Ball State, and I was flirting with her, and I was like, "So, do you like blueberries or strawberries?" And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "So I know what pancakes to make you in the morning." I forget where I heard this.
Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, Night at the
And
Roxbury.
I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna use that."
Oh my gosh.
You know
and
what?
It worked.
It kind of did work. She remembered me, but we never went on any dates.
Yeah.
But every time I like came back, she was like, "Pancake guy, I like it." I'm like, "Okay."
That's pretty good. Pretty good, Derek.
Good, you know.
Good work. Good work. I mean, it didn't work, but nice, good effort. Good effort.
Yeah, you know, at least I didn't get rejected like the "Hey there, groovy chick."
That's true. That was
Like-
a much softer rejection. Those are the ones you want. You don't want those
Yeah.
hard ass rejections like that. That was like a head
That
cut
was
off
a
kind of rejection.
confidence like destroyer. That
Yeah,
was.
that's a hard no. That's like a confidence torpedo. How about no, Scott? That's what that one was. And that is this week's episode. Be sure to comment down below if you have ever been rejected hard enough that it destroyed your confidence. And also tell us what movies you want to watch. Give us some suggestions. Let's see what's happening. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at HiLa Productions. You can follow us online at hilaproductions.com. Follow us on Instagram at Scream Bloody Movies. You can follow us each on Twitter. You can follow Derek at DDogleyMaster. Follow Lydia at Lydia is Spooky. And you can follow me at Racket. Be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.